Heroes and History, Selma, Alabama, and Bloody Sunday. Getting the right to vote. Each state in the U.S. makes its own rules about who can vote. By 1856, all states gave white male citizens the right to vote. The Civil War that ended in 1865 freed the slaves. The freed slaves became citizens. In 1870, Congress added the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. States may not deny citizens the right to vote because of race. Congress kept the U.S. Army in the South after the war. The Army protected black men's right to vote. Losing the right to vote. However, the Army left the South in 1877. 11 Southern states quickly passed laws to make it impossible for blacks to vote. Black men had to pass difficult reading tests. White men did not have to take the test. Black men had to pay poll taxes. White men did not. The Ku Klux Klan, KKK, a white terrorist organization, burned houses and lynched black men who tried to get their rights. The end of legal segregation. After World War II, 1945, black people began to ask for their civil rights and the right to vote. Civil rights activists took part in marches, peaceful protests, boycotts, and sit-ins. In 1964, Congress passed a Civil Rights Act. This made segregation laws illegal, but blacks still could not register to vote in many southern states. Selma, Alabama. More than half the people in Selma, Alabama were black. However, 99% of the voters were white. In early 1963, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, wanted to help blacks in Selma register to vote. The white leaders in Selma did not want blacks to vote. Each time SNCC brought a group of black people to register to vote, the police arrested them and beat them. When black school teachers came to the courthouse to register, they could not. In January 1965, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. came to help SNCC. Other organizations also came. King urged the civil rights workers to be nonviolent. On the other side, the segregationists were very violent. The police arrested more than 3,000 activists between January 1 and February 7 and injured hundreds of them. Bloody Sunday. On March 7, 1965, SNCC planned a peaceful march from Selma to Montgomery, the capital of Alabama. John Lewis of SNCC and Amelia Boynton led the march. When the marchers crossed the bridge across the Alabama River, Alabama State Police were waiting for them. The police began pushing and beating the marchers. They injured 67 marchers. They beat Amelia Boynton unconscious. They beat John Lewis and fractured his skull. Newsmen were there with TV cameras. People all over the country and the world saw this brutality on their TV screens. The event became known as Bloody Sunday. A second march on March 9 did not go well either. The marchers went as far as the bridge and turned back. That night, the KKK beat and murdered James Reeb, a Christian minister. Reeb had come from Boston, Massachusetts to Selma to help Black people register to vote. The third march. On March 21, SNCC tried a third time. This time, President Lyndon Johnson ordered the Alabama State Guard to protect the civil rights activists. 6,000 marchers left Selma and walked 54 miles to Montgomery. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the leaders. Thousands more joined the march on the way. On March 25, 25,000 marchers entered Montgomery to show their demand for the right to vote. That summer, Congress passed the 1965 Voting Rights Act. President Johnson signed it while Black leaders watched. The new law said that states may not make laws that take away people's voting rights. Conditions today. In the past 20 years, some states made laws that require a person to show a government photo identification, ID, in order to vote. Many older people and poor people don't have a driver's license or other official photo ID. Fewer of them will be able to vote. That may mean that fewer Black people will be able to vote too.